Hello friends and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be checking out something called Kuxtal by developer Luke O'Connor. This is another game from the 7-day FPS Game Jam Challenge, and it is a first-person platformer with a bit of a unique twist in that not only can we jump around to our heart's content with the spacebar, but we can actually also charge our jumps by holding down left click, which actually leads to some really lovely feelings of momentum. So our goal here is to collect a total of 24 crystals and try and defeat the angry, cursed Moai heads that seem to be following us about. And that is kind of our challenge here, is to collect the crystals to save this cursed village by wandering around this ancient ruin and just exploring and taking our time, enjoying the sights and sounds, of course, and also the fantastic feeling of momentum that we get by jaunting through the air like this. So you can see the crystals are kind of placed in rather difficult to get to locations, or at least that's the hope anyway. But our ability to jump and charge our jumps actually kind of lets us get to just about anything. In fact, it's almost a little too easy to abuse even. We can almost use it to fly, because it charges faster than you can fall most of the time, so as long as you're not out of bounds in the world, you can pretty much always recover, and there's not really any punishments for failure here in this game, which is kind of a lovely feeling. I'm getting kind of like a Jak and Daxter vibe from this game, although Jak and Daxter had a lot of punishments for failing, but it's got this kind of lighthearted, jovial thing, especially the fact that these guys go tumbling like that when you knock into them. Don't worry, you're not killing them. They'll come back to life later as happy denizens of this town, provided I can find all the crystals. And the world is big, but it's not so big that you won't be successful in probably about 10 or so minutes if you just keep at it. I mean, there's a chance that maybe you could get a little lost or miss one of the areas, because there are a couple of like little out-of-the-way nooks and crannies to things. But that's one of the things I think this game really does well. Not only does it have a great feeling of momentum, the world, I think, the level design is quite lovely as well. You have this, you know, a sprawling area that you can take your time to look around, but there's also enough cubby holes that it feels like occasionally you run into a little secret area or something that you hadn't noticed, at least at first. And just having those little guys there to challenge you too, like, they don't really pose any threat, but it is nice that you can get that nice impactful smash into them when you want to. It gives you that feeling like there's a little bit more going on, which for a 7-day Game Jam game is not a bad feeling at all, to have that degree of interactivity at least. I'm going to have to try and get that one. I have to find the right setup here so I can fly across the world and hopefully run into that as I go down. Now, you can use your charge jumps not only to get distance, but also to, like, charge yourself down to an object so you don't fly off into the freaking sky. Or, you know, if you want to just try and gap something bigger and make your jump consistently longer and faster, you can do it that way as well. And as much as I do love the level design to this, I would absolutely love to see more. I did finish this in pretty short order, and I was just kind of left with this feeling of, well, I really love the way this controls. I wish there was like an even bigger world that I could explore after this. And I was thinking of a few other indie games that I've played recently that have just had these massive sprawling worlds, and like how nice it would be to get involved in something like that. I'm thinking of like Windland specifically, the giant massive desert area, which, you know, actually also controlled pretty uniquely in its own right. But I feel like this is even more intuitive, and you don't have to get involved with grappling hooks and such. But having like a bunch of big old areas to explore and just having the ability to climb in a rather efficient way like this sort of makes me beg for like verticality more so than horizontal stuff, although horizontal stuff is great too because we can build up momentum to such a degree that we can cross massive spaces. So if you had a huge desert here, it might actually be quite fun to just charge your character up and just let it go. Okay, so we've actually... that's the one way we can, I guess, be punished, quote-unquote, because it's not a huge deal, but we can fall out of the world. And that's kind of one thing that I think I kind of wish wasn't a thing, because, well, why not just have some mountainous area around the edges? I mean, obviously that would beg the player to kind of... Oh, I think I just clicked through all of the land there. That's kind of bad. It would beg the player to take their time to probably explore all the mountainous region, but at the same time, like, what's wrong with that? Let them have their fun. I mean, if anything, make the obstacle be just that, like, it's so tall that it would take you an inordinate amount of time to charge up enough jumps to get over it. If there's, like, mountains all the way around or something like that. Or, you know, just have there be, you know, some kind of other punishment that's a little bit less direct. Or say, like, you're leaving the game area, which at the same time I just said that, I also kind of don't really like that as an excuse most of the time when it's employed in games. So, I mean, I guess I can get away with this rationalizing what is there now as just like, well, you know, it works, it's functional for the time being. For a 7-day Game Jam game, you know, can't be too upset about it. Also, kind of wish the player model was something other than the generic Unity pill character, but, you know, another thing that kind of comes with the territory. Much more important that the game feels good, and it does. Like, the momentum, again, feels great. I forgot if I mentioned already the fact that there's these diamonds hanging in the air. Aside from the gems that we're kind of collecting here, I'm not sure if there's any purpose to them other than just to kind of give us this whimsical, magical feeling. But I have gotten them confused with the actual crystal points that I'm trying to grab here. Oh, and you know what else this reminded me of, too, is a little bit Crackdown, which is, I know, a bit of a weird comparison to make, but it does have that thing about, like, verticality and ability to basically fly in an unconventional way, because, like, I can't just fly, but it kind of feels like I can at the same time. And there's something really empowering and fun about being able to explore what is traditionally kind of a, you know, spread out world in, you know, a different way than normal. You know, people that are so used to being able to walk around, obviously just basically take off into the sky. And wouldn't it be lovely if we could do this ourselves, right? So one of the more fragmented sentences that I've come up with in my life, but you know, whatever. So we're at 20 out of 24 crystals now. I don't think there's any requirement that we knock over all the Moai heads, but, you know, we can do that if they're in our way. What do they even do, right? If you're just standing next to them, I think they just kind of, like, run into you, but they don't really bother you very much, so this is not really a problem. I'm imagining, like, what if this area that we're in right now was, like, 50 times or 100 times as big as it is. Maybe it's even procedurally generated, and we end up with just like an overarching world map that we can see that's like, okay, well, this is how many you've gotten out of this area, and this is how many you've gotten out of this area, and little by little you can kind of break down the map to find out where all the crystals are, and slowly kind of bring back life to each one of the villages or tribes or whatever you want to separate those demarcations out into. They just probably should be separated, otherwise you're going to end up with this feeling of just being massively overwhelmed by objectives. I love that there's little bricks, too, that are physics-enabled, just kind of fall around. I mean, they don't really serve a direct purpose in the game, but they do feel, again, like they're breaking up the action a little bit. And it even gives me a little bit of almost a Sonic the Hedgehog vibe, breaking through those walls like that. And I'm kind of wondering, like, how would a Sonic game work if it controlled like this? Probably not well, but, you know, maybe they should try it, because what other big advances have been happening in the world of Sonic lately? I hear Sonic Boom was not all that great. I've seen the videos anyway. So I'm at 1 gem left. I'd like to grab it just so I can show you what happens when we get the final one, because the developer did actually take the time to implement a thing that does happen, and that doesn't always occur in these Game Jam games, that there's actually like a payoff win condition. Many of the times I've seen the game just sort of like cuts to the desktop or crashes or just stops working or fades to white or black or credits roll. But, you know, this one actually has like a little bit of a thing that you can walk around and experience. If I could get the last gem here, I have no idea where it is. Get somewhere high and look around, I guess, would be the best strategy here. Wouldn't it be so fun if there were just like towers off in the distance that you could see all over the place and just take your time to climb up them? Really, with this style of gameplay, like the way that the character momentum works, it's a lot more rewarding having to climb straight up than side to side. And again, it works good for, or well for covering massive amounts of ground, but it's not really necessary. I think the most fun and the most technical skill that would be required here would come from vertical platforming and trying to just make sure you're even-keeled in your approach for, you know, each strategic jump. If that makes sense. I hope it does. Alright, where's this last crystal? I think after, like, a minute of not finding it, a little arrow should pop and be like, it's in this general direction. And then just sort of, like, do a little bit of, like, you know, getting warmer. Maybe it could, like, beep as you get in the right direction, and then, like, as you get in, like, direct vicinity of it, it could be like, yeah, you're good, and then the arrow could just go away or something like that. Always curious how to implement things like that, but you never want to leave the player just kind of hanging there waiting for, you know, to just discover something. You can get away with it in this particular case, because this world is not vastly large, but if I was talking about something like I was before, you know, the world being 100 times as large as it is, definitely wouldn't want to let people just explore in that case, because that could just be endless. Oh, and also very frustrating. I think I know where, yeah, there it is. There's one little area off to the side that I hope I can continue to find here. But it's just like this one little outcrop on the side of the rock that has one more gem in it. So if I can find my way over there, we're golden. Pretty sure I can do it. Is this it? This is not it. What about over here? Without the charging, if this was just like a double jump, this would be so much less interesting to play. And, you know, it's complemented well with the art style, too. It's got this happy kind of cartoonish vibe. Things are whimsical, things are a little bit mysterious. The music does well to complement that as well, too. So in a way, it's actually quite a bit of a whole package between the momentum, the feeling of the physics, the way the music complements the graphical style. You know, this is actually really, really well done. I would just love to see more of it, and, you know, I guess that's probably one of the better compliments you could get, especially if you're designing something in a short amount of time. You know, can't really help that there's only as much as there is, you know, just sort of a vote of confidence that this particular player would love to see more of the same concept expanded upon. There we are. Alright, there's our final gem. Let's not overshoot it. Okay, beautiful. So there we go. We've gotten all the gems. The timer has gone away. It should actually say, like, your final time in the corner. If you want to collect gems in sort of a speedrunny fashion, that would definitely be preferable. And what we can do now is hang out with our little Moai friends, the happy music, and they're just going to cheer us along. Yay! They make little weird bird sounds. I don't really know why, but they're happy not to be cursed, I guess. And that's fun. And they're just going to celebrate all the good times that they've had standing around in various locations amongst these ruins. Anyway, that's probably going to do it for Kuxtal. Again, apologies if I didn't pronounce that right. It might be Kuxtal. I'm not very good with linguistics as much. I have a decent vocabulary, but I definitely have some things to learn about how different cultures pronounce different groupings of letters together. But regardless, very cool experience, very positive impressions on this one. I definitely recommend you check this out yourself. I'm going to be following this developer more in the future. He's also responsible, I forgot if I mentioned this at the beginning too, for another game called Mount, which I covered on the channel. It's like a procedurally generated mountain climbing game, which was also really cool. So definitely some good stuff coming from Luke. And yeah, we'll definitely follow his work in the future, hopefully revisiting some stuff in the future too, and maybe something more will come of this one in particular. I'd love to see that. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Links are going to be in the description if you want to check this same game out yourself. Give it a run through, see how quickly you can beat it, and leave me a comment and let me know what you think of this in particular too, if you don't mind. Also, if you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like on it. That helps me out a whole bunch, and be sure to come back again tomorrow, because new episodes of Indie Impressions go up every single day. If you're enjoying the series, or if you're enjoying the channel, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. That also helps out the channel vastly, and continues to help encourage more people to get involved in indie games, and showing them off, and finding out about weird new original ones, and that's kind of what we're all about over here. So if you're on for that message and for that mission, then definitely join the club over here, okay? Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you have a great night, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.